Third meeting of the City of Monona City Council. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Holmquist. Here. Alder Moore.
Here.
Alder Wood. Alder Thomas. Here. Alder Rademacher. Here. Alder DePula. Here. Mayor O'Connor.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the September 19th and the September 29th special meeting?
So moved.
Any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. There are no appearances, there is no public hearing, no consent agenda, no unfinished business. Moving on to new business, item 2A, consideration of resolution 22-10-2590, approval of participation in a Department of Health Services EMS Flex Grant put forth by the fire chief, and this is starred for immediate approval. So is there a motion to take it out of order?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Chief.
I'm going to work smarter instead of harder. Don't bring my notes with me this week.
Okay.
Good evening. As you may have all heard, I wrote an EMS Flex grant through the state DHS roughly about 4 months ago. The process was supposed to take 30 days. It's now taken 4 months. We did get awarded a grant. The initial grant award was $82,370. Then they came back and gave us another few $1,000s. So we ended up with $85,235, which is 45% of what we wrote. It was a flat 45% award to everybody who wrote for the Flex grant. And what the state did was come back and say, well, within these 5 categories, tell us what you want to spend this money on. And instead of telling us what they awarded, they just said, tell us what you want to spend the money on, which is great. It allowed us to assign our priorities to it. So with that money, one of the first things that went was the bike team. That got eliminated. But what we did get out of this, on the equipment side, we have about $4,000 going to replace all the CAD tablets in all of our trucks, from a $1,000 tablet down to about a $150 tablet, which is also a Wi-Fi hotspot, so it eliminates a separate piece of equipment, and it covers the data plans for all of them, which we already have budgeted, but it allows us to cover those data plans for the year of 2023. The second and larger item, in my opinion, is the ambulance chassis. We had written to have that covered as part of the grant. Priority-wise, I thought that was a high priority, so I left the entire funding for the ambulance chassis in, the $46,700 for the capital budget. And the last part is the staffing initiatives. We went back through what we had written as opposed to what we got and kind of adjusted those a little bit. So there's 3 parts to that. There's a full-time staffing initiative, which puts about $23,000 into overtime hours for next year, which allows us, it'll be tied to daytime staffing. So there'll be 7 10-hour shifts per person. The dollar amount that we put in there is actually tied to what their hourly rate is for 2023 based on their current pay. But it allows us to help double staff that second ambulance during the day and gives them the benefit of giving them some overtime at no cost to the city. That is a one-time shot. The second part is the LTE staffing initiative. What we did there is within the existing budget, I raised the rate from $20 to $22 an hour, which cut our hours down by about 24 hours a month to be able to do that for 2023. With this grant, what I did was get those 24 hours back. So we're back up to 216 hours of staffing with this grant for 2023. The last part is our POC and POP staffing. They're a little bit more difficult to write grants for because of their volunteer status, but what we did is it's going to be kind of a lottery. The more trainings they attend, they get there's a $250 gift card every month. every time you come to training, it goes into the drawing and you get a chance to win a Quick Trip gift card. There's also stuff in there for if they do classes above and beyond the minimum for the fire department, they get a $25 gift card as well. So if they get firefighter 2 or fire officer 1, they get a gift card for that. And that's enough to fund all of 2023 as well with this grant. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Myself and Chief Eckhoff sat down and tried to prioritize what we could with what they gave us. So,
Okay, I would just say before anybody else's comments, first of all, I think it's awesome that a big chunk of this is going to be paying for the chassis for the new ambulance that we ordered. And my other thing is I just want everyone to know as a point of information that the chief understands that this extra staffing money will probably go away at the end of 2023, and we are not committed to replacing it out of city funds at this point unless we get a huge windfall from somebody. So
I'm working on it.
I did see that there's another grant that the governor's asking for more
Yeah.
funding, so hopefully it'll come through. But anybody have any comments or questions? Thanks for your work on this, Jerry. About it? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Next item, 2B, consideration of Resolution 22-10-2591, award of contract for sanitary sewer main lining project, put forth by the Public Works Committee. Dan.
Thank you, Mayor. We have funding in the 2022 capital budget for another round of sanitary sewer main lining. We did a bid opening on August 25th of this year, and we received 3 bids for this work. The low bid was provided by Visu Sewer, who was the same contractor that did our 2021 work at the end of the year in December and early January this year. The low bid amount was $136,270, and we also have an alternate bid amount in there of $1,000. We're here tonight for City Council as the first reading, and we'll be back in 2 weeks for City Council approval. We will be at the October 5th Public Works Committee meeting this week, seeking their recommended approval. Included in the packet, I have a list of streets and a map of the areas that we'll be doing in 2022. And we are expecting to complete more main lining in the next few years as well, as we get the I-9 out of the ground. So if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them for you.
Doug?
So Dan, this is a public works contract, is that right?
Yes.
And it's required to go to bid, right?
Yes. Yep.
And we're required to take the low bid unless of any reasonable or responsible bidder.
Correct. Yep.
Dan, did you say at Finance and Personnel that this, you think, will extend the life
Right.
of these pipes by 90 years? Is that?
The pipe can last up to 90 years. It's a plastic, through chemical treatment, it ends up being a plastic pipe within a pipe. And that can last up to 90 years or longer.
Yeah. Teresa?
As opposed to the lifespan of the previous material?
Well,
What would that
there's,
ballpark?
yeah, there's probably since the late 40s, you know, the type of mains have changed over time. The mains that we have can be concrete, cast iron, things like that, which is more brittle. This year, the lining is, have you ever seen the process?
No.
Where they have a liner that's basically inside out, and they inject it into the pipe through air, and they use chemicals to have a chemical reaction that kind of form it against the inside of the existing pipe. So the new pipe on the inside is protected by whatever pipe material is on the outside, and that helps with the age of the pipe. So unless there's some type of earth force that would break it. So we have a number of different types of materials in pipes in the market right now. So, but the newer stuff is plastic.
Doug?
I mean, this is way cheaper than if we had to replace going and dig up and all the inconvenience and the
Yes.
cost of that.
Yep.
I mean, this is really, this has only been around, what, 15 years maybe?
3 decades perhaps.
Anyway.
But you're right.
it's a big advancement.
Open cut would be probably triple the price.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Nancy?
I was just going to say, for Teresa and anybody else's benefit, it's probably on a YouTube video somewhere if you
Yeah.
want to see this
There's a
process.
lot out there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, anything else? Okay, this will come back in 2 weeks. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Next item, 2C, consideration of Resolution 22-10-2592, approval to apply for a Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources Urban Forestry Grant put forth by the Park and Rec Board. Is there a motion to take this out of order?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Anderson.
Good evening. This is Urban Forestry Grant that is a 50% matching grant for ash tree removal, updating of our park tree inventory, and some ed. So we applied last year, didn't get it, got some feedback from our coordinator, and have an application ready to go, but the deadline is today. So we do need the resolution to apply for this grant, and then this would be for 2023 project. So contingent upon our $25,000 or $30,000 that we have in the capital budget, along with staff time that will be utilized for some of the removals.
Question, anyone? Nancy?
So, Jake, I'm assuming when you said you talked to our person that they provided some insight in terms of why we got turned down last year
Correct.
and how to improve the grant so that the likelihood of approval was there this year.
Correct.
Anyone else?
So you're saying this is part of the 30,000, oh, I'm sorry,
No, Mark, I'm sorry.
the capital budget?
Correct.
So if you actually get it, we could borrow 15,000 less, is that what you're getting at?
Oh. No, it's a matching grant.
Right.
We would still be utilizing those funds for other forestry removals and plantings.
So you're talking about 30 plus 15, then, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, the project would be almost a $50,000 project when you calculate staff time and materials into it, so we can utilize the staff wages and supplies that are already operating to get up to $50,000 with the project. So then it would be, the max would be $25,000.
So we use that for operating. Okay.
Any questions, Teresa?
That was kind of the same vein where I was headed. So in the capital budget, there was a proposal for, to cover the cost of ash tree removal, which was 30?
30,000, yeah.
And then this is a grant for the removal of ash trees.
The grant yes, it's a matching grant though. So in order to get $25,000 of grant money, we have to show $50,000 of work. And so that $50,000 is $30,000 plus, $20,000 of staff time and materials to get to that 50.
So
it's
this,
not a one-to-one
so this
match.
doesn't affect the capital budget
Correct.
at all?
No.
The capital's required to make it work.
Right.
Correct.
So just to be clear, because when I hear matching, I think 1-to-1. You're saying it's a 1-to-2 match? So we have to have 50,000 in order to get 25?
Correct.
The total project has to be 50 to get 25.
Correct.
Yeah.
Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, we have 3 different transportation safety grants. First one, item D, consideration of Resolution 22-10-2594, approval of participation in a Wisconsin Bureau of Transportation safety grant titled 2023 Capital Area OWI Task Force, put forth by the Public Safety Committee.
Move to suspend the rules and take this item out of order.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve this?
So move.
Second?
Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. The first is OWI grant. We participated in this grant before, and thanks to Lieutenant Wiggle, who's here today. We received an offer again to participate from the Bureau of Transportation Safety from Wisconsin DOT. I think all of you can agree that OWI enforcement is very important. We participate in the Drive Sober Get Pulled Over campaign, and have had a lot of success. So I'm asking for your approval to accept the grant. We're part of a task force that includes other municipalities who will also be participating in a grant within their jurisdiction, to include Cottage Grove, DeForest, Stoughton, Oregon, and Verona.
Questions, anyone? Doug?
So how does it actually get implemented? Are there special enforcement efforts made?
So you try to time it on the same, the enforcement activity on the same dates. So Lieutenant Weigel actually gets together with his counterparts in the other agencies to actually time it so that you're conducting the enforcement on the same dates, or generally within the same dates. We, of course, focus on the main thoroughfares, the state roads in particular, because these are state-funded grants. And where we think we'll have the biggest impact. And the goal is obviously to reduce traffic, crashes, preserve life. So, we don't want folks getting involved into significant crashes. And then you make the biggest impact when you do it as a collective. So we try to do it on the same days.
Okay, thanks.
Teresa?
Are the dates announced to the public?
We have in the past done a little bit of both. We've announced them before, during, and sometimes we've reported after.
What is
There's
the,
no secret behind.
yeah,
the
what is the benefit of letting everyone know that y'all are out there, like, watching for speeders, instead
Yes.
of just doing it without them knowing, I mean?
Right. The goal is voluntary compliance. So the goal is for people to obey the law and not necessarily gotcha moments
Sure.
for the police department or the municipality. So by encouraging folks to obey the law, by reminding them that we're going to be there checking to see if they are, we're hopeful that folks will comply or think twice, take a cab, Uber, get a ride, or go the speed limit.
Is there research to suggest that it's effective to announce in advance that there will be monitoring of certain stretches of the road? I guess maybe I'm old school. I just feel like some people need to take a hit before they learn their lesson.
Yeah, and that's sort of a complex question because there's complex answers behind that because
Sure.
everyone's situation is different. If you look at where we're geographically placed, especially if you look at where we do enforcement along the Beltline, you're coming into contact with a variety of different people from a variety of different socioeconomic backgrounds, and there might be a variety of reasons in which why they don't have a license, why they might not know all the traffic laws because of the way our driver's ed system is in place here. There's a whole lot of factors. So there's some theories out there which I prescribe to that say the more education and awareness and visibility and encouragement to comply, the better. I think you lose a lot of community trust when you have squad cars hiding behind bushes and you sort of don't announce necessarily the initiatives that you're doing. And my goal here is to be as open and encouraging positive behavior as possible. But there's evidence on both sides of the aisle. I think you go to different parts of the state, you'll see that it's what I was just referring to, hide behind the tree.
Yeah.
But I think here in Dane County, it's generally been accepted that these are more done openly in practice.
Doug?
Yeah, I know the state patrol will announce, like, if they're going to do aerial speed patrol, they'll announce that they're going to do it and kind of where they're going to do it, and it's kind of a window of when it'll be done. So not like, at 9 o'clock on Tuesday, but, a 2-week window or something like that, so that,
It
I mean, it
accomplishes-
encourages the voluntary compliance, like, at least for that, for temporarily.
Yeah, and I think you've seen my operating philosophy when it comes to that. We did a 2-3 week window for back to school, and I literally had the largest message board signs that I've seen in the area advertising the fact that we were out there doing enforcement. And sometimes we weren't out there, sometimes we were. But I'd made a huge press release talking about this event and that we were going to be doing. And this is something similar. We sign on to various state sort of campaigns when the state pushes out, hey, drive sober, hey, slow down. And you'll see them on the state highway message boards as well. So we sort of prescribe to what the state has sort of a path with respect to these grant enforcements. And we'd like to continue to be a happy continuing partner.
Anyone else? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion passes. Going on to item E, similar. Consideration of Resolution 22-10-2595, approval of participation in a Wisconsin Bureau of Transportation Safety Grant titled 2023 Dane Suburban Seatbelt Task Force, also put forth by the Public Safety and also requested for immediate action.
Move to suspend the rules and take this item out of order.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Move approval.
Second.
Chief.
This is very similar. We'll be focusing on seatbelt enforcement. I sit on a countywide work group that is geared towards addressing racial disparities in serious or fatal crashes in our county, to which the numbers are grossly, I think it's really hard when you look at the numbers to see how it impacts particularly communities of color and how important education and enforcement are in trying to save lives. So my goal is to participate in grant opportunities like this, not necessarily to hit somebody's pocketbook, but to make sure folks know that we care, we want you to live, and that we'll be out there doing enforcement. Now, I can tell you that, and I mentioned this for those of you who were on council last year, you might be familiar, that I continue to emphasize that we will be addressing hazardous driving behavior as a primary reason for the stop. The state law does allow law enforcement to stop persons who are not wearing their seatbelt as a primary reason for the stop. That in of itself comes with a variety of complexities. I think that it's more comfortable for me to say that yes, you can do that, but I want you as officers to focus on what I feel is important. Focus on the driving behavior, and if you so happen to see somebody not wearing their seatbelt as well, then certainly it's within your lawful authority to stop them. So I don't want folks in the community to think that we're out there with binoculars and looking into every car at all times of the day for folks that aren't wearing their seatbelts. I want you to wear your seatbelt, but know that we also want you to slow down, get off your phones, be attentive, don't run red lights, all these hazardous driving behaviors that can that cause crashes and we lose lives in this county and in this community. So.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item F, consideration of Resolution 22-10-2596, approval of participation in a Wisconsin Bureau of Transportation Safety Grant titled 2023 Speed Grant Task Force, also put forth by the Public Safety Committee and also started for immediate approval.
Move to suspend the rules and take this item out of order.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Move approval.
Second.
Okay. Chief.
Yes, same sort of operating philosophy with these hazardous driving behavior, speed. There's maybe a day I've gone a day probably without receiving a complaint or concern about speeding in and around our community. So this is something that we continue to address. Our officers have, and the mayor was involved in an email exchange I just sent out. We've conducted over 1,000 traffic stops this year so far, and for an agency our size, I'll tell you that's quite impressive that our officers are out there conducting traffic enforcement in between all of the other calls for service that they have to go to on a daily basis during their shift. And there's 2 officers typically per shift that are working, so just try to do the math there. But we're focusing on speed as well because speed is a killer. And I think you all have seen evidence of folks driving too fast in our community. So this is an effort to help support encouraging people to slow down.
Any questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes, thank you. Okay, we are going to move on to item G, consideration of Resolution 22-10-2593, approving the 2023-2027 capital improvements program and 2023 capital borrowing, put forth by me. Most of the, I think all the staff who has proposals in this budget are here or online via Zoom. To answer any questions you might have, now that you've had some time after our meeting last week, Alder Wood has submitted a capital budget amendment. And can we, I assume we can discuss this tonight? Yeah. If anybody has any questions about that, so I will open the floor. Alder Thomas, did you have something?
Well, yeah, I spoke against it at the timing of it at the last meeting, and I will do so again at this meeting. I'm not sure what the rush is to do it now, but what I can tell you is the city has supported our buying San Damiano. We hope
Are you talking about the budget amendment, right?
budget amendment.
Okay.
What are you saying is?
How about I read it? I'm going to read it for the benefit of the audience, okay? This is an amendment to add a Huska Park preliminary engineering in the amount of $50,000. This is something I had removed. The project will further the goals of the approved Huska Park master plan and, among other things, provide significant improvement to ADA accessibility, primarily by construction of accessible routes to the several playing fields. I guess I would say we moved it to a year later. We didn't actually fully remove it.
Was it a year or two?
It's 2 years.
Was it the
Yeah.
engineering we moved 2
Yeah.
years? Okay.
And there
Sorry,
is, for the following year, for 2024, $750,000 for the park improvement.
Which is in the 26 proposed now.
Right. Well, now it is, but you like to move it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you want to move it to 2024.
Right.
First of all, I think the timing on it is bad. I don't know if the urgency on it. We're focusing, I thought, on San Damiano, and we're focusing on the public safety building. And, I mean, I've heard comments from people who are saying, first of all, you got to maintain what you have, which we're not doing. And secondly, does this council never quit spending money? I mean, if you want to support a public safety building, which is jaw-breaking in its cost, but a necessity. And we got San Damiano coming up. I don't know why. You know, if I thought that there was, that we had some kind of liability not doing it, I would agree. But I trust the mayor and the acting administrator when they say that it can be moved ahead without creating any liability for the city to move it forward. I just think that times are tough right now. They're tough for the citizens of the residents of this community, and they are tough for the city. And adding a new amendment in to add $750,000 next year, not this year, but next year, I just think the timing is bad on it. And I think this city is not going to be happy with it.
Alder Wood.
So, let me back up a step. And Jake, maybe you want to come up and you can help describe the project. But basically, we already have the Huska Park master plan that we had adopted several years ago. And so this is all in accordance with that and to fulfill that plan. Primarily, this project would be to create the accessible routes, which are sorely lacking. If you go down there, you can see that, there's not an accessible route to the football field, the soccer fields, the baseball field. That would be, and then also would replace the playground. And was there any work on the shelter, or is that pretty much it?
Just to back up, so Huska Park was built in 1999-2000, so before the 2010 Title II ADA requirements, which are now in effect. At our next council meeting, you will hear that our ADA transition plan presentation from our consultant MSA that was done. In our entire park system, we have over 200 deficiencies that are currently not in compliance with the ADA law. What does that mean? That means if someone were to file a grievance and we did not have this ADA transition plan adopted or in place, which would say we are now bound by law to make these, correct these deficiencies, and we have time to do them, we would be liable in a lawsuit. But because we funded this transition plan and we will eventually adopt it at this body within the next 2 months, that will put in place kind of a staging of when we are going to do these projects. And so we have to prioritize what projects come first. Based on our recommendation at Parks Board, Aluska Park is one of our highest, most visible parks in the community, and having those amenities, having those accessible routes to those facilities is a top priority. And so those will be addressed. This is also a very grant eligible project. So there's a National Park Service federal grant that allows for the improvement of active recreation spaces, which Aluska Park definitely qualifies for. So my recommendation is, if you want to pursue this, we apply for the federal grant, which does help offset engineering costs. We know by August, September, and if we don't get the grant, we don't have to pursue with engineering, but we do need, to show that we are having that money in the, capital budget as we go through the grant application process.
How many of our parks are can meet the accessibility
Many
standard?
do, and many have just like minor deficiencies. It might be a soap dispenser that's in the wrong spot, or a disabled parking stall that's too high or too low. So a lot of them are very easy. Others aren't. And Ahuska's ones that aren't as easy because it's clearly a violation. If someone were in a wheelchair, by law, you have to provide a hard surface to get them to the program elements. So, for example, Schluter Park was one of the first ADA structures that we built. When we updated in 2015, we had that. Stonebridge, the last park we did, we were able to make ADA accessible so someone could get down to, the viewing area. All of the park projects that we've done and we've funded, we have put those accessible paths and routes to. So this is kind of going back to the ones that haven't been done, parks that were done pre-2013 or pre-2012 all have some challenge or elements to them that we will need to address.
So of the $750,000, how much of it is for accessibility?
Probably half. I mean, that number is an estimate, a guesstimate, until we get actually into the design and engineering of what needs to be done.
Do you understand where I'm coming from when I say the community is concerned about, you shrug your shoulders, Jake, but
I live in the community too, Alder Thomas, and we talk to different people.
Mine could talk about why we kind of cut this project and what was our concern. One of our concern is one of the goals we had is not to add an operating cost. That was our big concern too. Is in 2000, I know Jake talked about it, and we probably disagreed about this. Is in 2025 we'll have to add operating costs because there's no way we can clean all these paths and all that stuff without adding another parks person. It's just not possible. So. But the way they're already at their limits right now, adding this extra cost on there is going to add operating costs. So that was our concern, and also the TIF will not be. We don't know when that TIF is going to be actually. There's a TIF they're looking at getting money from a TIF, which would be the North Point TIF, which is the White Horse property, which we would use, and we don't know what year that's actually going to be approved. I mean, it should be any day now, but it could be delayed.
We haven't even started the TIF process, though, really, have we, have any of the paperwork or anything?
We haven't got to the CDA.
Right.
Isn't that one near the end of the plan commission process?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
eventually
but
comes
the
CDA,
PIP
you've got the
approved,
negotiations and all that. So you got to set the TIF law. Then you got to get the increment to start coming in too. So that's,
Right. I guess I would have just a little bit of a different take on with relation to the public safety building. That, first of all, this isn't that, I mean, it's a big project, but it's, you know, we do bigger projects every year. But I think the community would be concerned if we were saying, well, we're going to do this public safety building, but that means we're not going to be able to do other necessary projects. I think we need to be able to show that we can walk and chew gum at the same time and do them. So I don't think it's, I just don't think in the grand scheme of a $48 million public safety building, I don't think this really has much to do with it.
Alder Moore.
I guess, Alderwood, I guess my view would be that we demonstrate that we can walk and chew gum at the same time every single budget year. I mean, we do multiple projects, multiple capital projects every single year.
Yeah.
So I don't think that Alder Thomas is suggesting that because we're doing the public safety building that we're not going to do any other capital projects, whether it's public works or a new fire engine or whatever. But I think I'm sympathetic. And Jake, I certainly appreciate that you talk to other people in the community than maybe Alder Thomas does. But I know that I've had people similarly expressed to me, not specific to Ahuska, but in general, feeling like the parks we're challenged to take care of the parks that we have now, and that I guess I feel like it seems to me a little bit before the cart before the horse, which is to say, it would make sense to me for us to be approving an ADA plan before we then, and so when we're looking at the whole picture of what needs to be done, before approving this particular piece, and we would be demonstrating appropriate restraint in the meantime. I mean, I don't think anybody here could possibly argue that we don't invest a huge amount in our parks and that we don't get a huge amount out of our parks. So, which is to say, we're all very proud of our parks, and we've all supported lots of outstanding park programs and facilities. So I don't think that you could argue that this body is cheap when it comes to park improvements. I think what Alder Thomas is saying, and I'm in concurrence with that, is that exercising a little restraint at this time would probably be wise, which is undoubtedly what the mayor and Mark were thinking in part when they took it out.
Just so everybody knows, if you have your computers, I sent an email which has the original project description that was originally given to myself and the mayor. So.
I would say that I have one thing I did include in the budget, which I would consider an ADA project as well, as replacement of the path from the pool back through to Greenway Road, which is in horrible, horrible shape, and all kinds of people use it all the time. So, I mean, it's not that, and I agree, it's not that I don't think it's important. I would like to see the whole plan in a readable format, which is, right now it's so huge, it's really hard to even read on a computer. And I think we needed to, I know the Parks Committee has done some the members have gone to various parks to see what they think, what should be done at each park according to the plan, and they're going to be putting some priorities together, and then I think we need to see those priorities. It just seems like we could wait. Brian?
I wanted to just respond to that last thing first. We have been kind of paired up and going out to just the major parks, the top 5 or 6, I think. But I mean, and we will see the ADA transition plan here at the next meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to, I mean, it's a transition plan, meaning it's going to take a long time to implement. And I think I guess I don't know that we can want to wait, we can't wait on what we're going to do with the budget. I mean, until the Parks Board comes back with more recommendations, I don't even know that there will be more recommendations.
I think the council though needs time to look at the plan and
Oh, yeah.
see what it recommends, and there's 199 other items, a lot of which are small things that Parks staff can do without adding to the budget, is my understanding. So it's not like we're doing nothing.
Right,
Just-
not saying that at all.
Yeah.
No, and I agree, the path around Winnequa is really badly needed and definitely will be an ADA improvement. And it also does give the opportunity then to provide more access by building adjacent viewing platform, just asphalt space, so that somebody in a wheelchair could get there, get out of the path, and view their grandchild's soccer game or whatever it might be.
Alderman Quist.
I don't want us to confuse doing some accessibility in one park by making that okay to not address a significantly deficit when it comes to accessibility within Ahuska. You have the number of events that are held down in Ahuska. It's pretty appalling that we don't have ADA like compliant facilities when it comes to this major regional park. And to say, well, we got 199 other items that are moving a sign or a soap dispenser. If you're someone that really requires hardscape to be able to get access, those other items are not a high priority.
I'm just saying they're doable within the current budget without.
There are. And I think the idea of saying that this one was removed because it might cause some additional operating costs, to say that providing accessible pathways is not a good thing to do because it might cause additional operation costs is not appropriate.
And again, we moved it back by 2 years. We didn't remove it.
Yep.
So.
And I understand. To say that we won't want to do something because it might cause that is just not appropriate.
So this includes a cold storage building, entrance feature, and bleacher upgrades. This is a lot more than accessible paths.
Some of the bleacher upgrades, though, that's from the football club, right? Like, there's
That
money
they're going to
coming
pay for
from.
part of it.
We do have funding partners, yes, for a portion of it. I think Alder Holmquist touches on ones that I wish I could have eloquently stated a little bit more about. My passion for this project is that Ahuska Park is a regional park, and we bring in visitors from all over the community for high school and youth athletics. Every Sunday, we bring 1,000 people or more for Monona Farmers Market, April through October. Every fall, we have, youth football that draws in 500 people. Right now, we got games, and I guarantee there's 700 people down there tonight at that park. And to bring in all these visitors, non-residents, their first impression of Monona is this park that their mother, grandmother, wheelchair cannot get to an appropriate seating level. These are the feedback, the comments that I get from the people that are using these parks, or the players or the parents are. So that is where I think the passion for me, this project comes from. And I think Alder Holmquist hit on it a little bit more, but yes, there are other amenities that we would like to do with this project that are grant
How many of these
eligible.
are being funded by the football people? There's irrigation and drain tile for the field. There's the cold storage unit. There's bleacher upgrades, playground replacement and relocation. There's 2 path things listed. I'm looking at what came from what you originally proposed. Could you tell us how much of that is being funded by?
So
other
right now, we have a
groups?
$50,000 pledge from the Monona Grove Youth Football
Okay.
for upgrades. It's going to take more than that, but we've also had this project at Ahuska Park moved and removed and moved again. And so you need to have some sort of definite, like, we are going to move forward with this so we can actually start to work with our other funding partners for a fundraising plan.
And will we also be continuing to trim weeds there? Something I asked all last year that never happened, and I heard from plenty of people about how awful it looked. So just mentioning that. Anyone else? Patrick?
So we talked a little earlier about pairing up and going to the parks, and I was one of the folks that went around Huska looking at the ADA issues. And I'll be the first to admit that my experience in Huska Park was pretty much limited to going to the farmer's market and getting a Christmas tree, right? So I don't really wander into the park very much, other than when my kid played flag football years ago. But I was kind of surprised at the level of disrepair that the park seems to be in, and those comments about it being the gateway park of Monona, the spot that people from outside of Monona come to and see. It doesn't really seem that way. So there are issues there. The concrete ends in the grass, like from the entrance to the football field. I don't really know why that is. There's just empty grass where the concrete ends before you get to the curb, so you can't even wheel a wheelchair to that little front entrance that's there. So it looks just totally incomplete. I don't know what the full history of that is, or why that is, but it looks incomplete. And there's no way to get around that field at all with any sort of hard surfaces either. So even the bathroom doors are in disrepair. So yeah, I understand completely about not wanting to further tax the city by spending additional money right now, but it is kind of a showpiece for the city of Monona and brings significant people here. So that's just my thought.
Anyone else? Rademacher.
I remember when we were discussing the White Horse property and its location, and the comment came up that not everybody wants to live down by the Dream Park, or can they afford to? And like Alder DePula, Huska's a park that I don't know much about, but maybe as we think about our diversity, equity, inclusion plan, maybe it is a location that would check a few more boxes than the Dream Park might. I don't know if I'm saying that in a way that is effective.
And again, that project won't be built for another year
Yeah,
or two, so if we
right.
do the park in a year or two.
Right.
But it's up to you guys. So does anybody else have any other comments? Okay, just so everybody knows, this kind of amendment is what, if you want to make a change in the budget as proposed, you need to submit to Mark what you'd like to change, and then he puts together the amendment, just for the benefit of the new alders. And Mark, when would you like those by?
That was for the next meeting. If we can get them by the Wednesday before the next meeting.
So that must be like the
12th
12th or something like that of October.
12th, if that's possible. If it's not, we'll get them out. you know.
It's just nice for the rest of the council to be able to see it a couple days in advance if they can. We have the rest of the staff here. Do you have anybody have any questions about any other part of the budget that was presented, Brian?
I do, for Chief Jay, regarding the brush truck. Do you mind?
Do you want to come up here, Jerry?
And some of this, I apologize, because we met on Thursday, and I didn't want to send an email and ask you to try to work over the weekend, so I figured.
I will work over the weekend.
I know you would. And, I wanted to limit the amount of work that you were doing over the weekend. So I just had a few questions about the brush truck, and you might not have all the information tonight. Don't feel like the expectation is necessarily that you have it right now. I just wanted to know a little bit more about the approval of the DNR MOU and how that would apply with the grant. Is the memorandum of understanding separate than the grant?
Yes.
And how are the two connected?
So in years past, the DNR had a fire protection grant for many years, more years than I've been doing this. I'm going to say 4 or 5 years ago, they implemented what they found up north, not around here, but in the northern part of the state, folks were getting the grant and then not responding when the DNR would call for their help. So now they made it official that you have signed an MOU that if they do call, you'll go help to be able to be eligible to write for the grant.
And that 50% is for the total or just for the chassis?
That 50% is anything we spend on the vehicle to make it a brush truck. So the chassis is outside of that. So the truck itself isn't part of the grant, but anything that we spend on the truck would make it a DNR capable brush truck, we can write a grant for a 50% reimbursement.
And of the 70,000, none of the 70,000 would be those items.
Half of the 70,000
Half.
roughly. So the chassis, they honored the 22 price or the 21 price, which was fabulous. So we're going to get, I think the truck ends up costing about $38,000 the truck itself. So the remainder of that is to outfit the truck, and anything that we do with that $32,000 we can write a grant for. My goal
For
is
half of
actually
it?
to be for half of that, so 16,000 roughly in grant money.
And we have ordered the chassis already, correct?
Correct.
And I may have misunderstood or misheard last time when we asked regarding roughly how many brush fire calls, and I think I have written down, and I could have it wrong, that there were approximately 26 brush calls.
Yeah.
Was that this year or the previous year?
Just this year, we responded to 26, maybe 27, that's all with the fire.
26-ish.
Yeah,
Somewhere in that.
roughly 2 dozen. The other portion that this responds to is the areas of parking ramps that we can't get to. So this responds to all the calls under Walmart. From what I understand, Walmart was supposed to build a height-capable parking garage, and they did not. So in return, they bought us the sled unit for the back of the truck. But most of the new condos that have underground parking, our engine does not fit. So this goes in if there's a car fire in the parking garages, odor investigations, that sort of thing. That's the vehicle that gets sent in because it does have firefighting capabilities and it's low clearance.
And I just want to make sure, and maybe this is the part that I've kind of filled in the gaps in my head, and it just might not be true. So the number of calls that we have, for example, underground in, I'll just pick on the Walmart Supercenter because there's lots of cars there, right?
Yeah.
If I heard you correctly, there were only 5 vehicle calls for underground?
Correct.
So we send this truck after it's confirmed that there's an active vehicle
No,
fire?
we send it regardless. So if we get a call for a car fire that ends up being a overheated radiator, we get called if it's a car fire, somebody sees smoke or they think it's smoke, that vehicle is dispatched.
And so between the Walmart parking supercenter and all of our underground, there's only been 5 calls this year?
Yes.
For even investigation?
For actually people seeing smoke or fire, yeah.
Okay. I think that's all I had. I just want to make sure I was understanding my notes correctly. So thanks. Thank you.
Alder DePula, did you have a question?
It did, but it's not a question for the fire department.
Okay, anybody have anything else for the chief?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, Patrick, can I go ahead?
Yes, it was a question for Leah, actually. Thanks for being here. I know I mentioned it last week regarding I was wondering if you were able to find out anything about the cameras.
About the cameras?
Yeah, about the recorders.
So we have our IT person here one day a week.
Okay.
So his day is Wednesday.
Gotcha.
So I will talk to him about that on Wednesday.
Okay,
and
okay.
email the council.
Yeah, I was just looking for an update because, looking into it a few times, that 5,000 for the 5,000 for the recorder seems pretty significant, and I think technology's changed that we might be able to save some money from that. But anyway, I was just looking for an update. That's all. Thanks.
Any other questions for anyone? No, and they will all be here 2 weeks from now. And I'm assuming we'll probably have some more amendments also. So I think that is the end of the agenda items. Moving on to reports. Are there any updates or discussion on the diversity, equity, inclusion efforts? I did meet with some representatives of the art group today, and we're talking a little bit how they can help with the implementation of the DEI ad hoc committee's report. And I think it's something we're going to be working with Nehemiah on, and Mark and I are hoping to schedule another meeting with the council and Nehemiah probably early November,
Early November.
later in October, whatever, to talk a little bit more about how we see that going forward. Does anybody else have any news?
I just have a question about, when you say the art group.
The
Yeah,
anti-racism.
the anti-racism circles, Sukar, and.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
going to ARC.
I'm sorry.
ARC, sorry.
ARC, ARC.
Thank you.
Yeah,
They requested a meeting. Teresa was at it too.
Yeah, and I felt it was a very productive meeting. It was fantastic. A lot of good discussion about leveraging existing resources that are, existing procedures that are already in place. Just really nice.
And I think some good information for them about how the city works.
Mhm.
Because I don't think,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people don't realize how things happen in
Yeah.
the city and our committee process and all those kind of things, so.
Yeah, it was good.
Anyone else have anything to report on diversity and equity? How about sustainability?
We have a new member that will be appointed
Yes, we
tonight.
will, well, no, next
Next
2
week.
weeks we'll be
Yep.
appointing a new member.
Yep.
Yep. Anything anyone have?
We have a
Mark,
new
did you
staff
wanna say-
person that
Oh,
started
that's
today
right.
who will kind of be the members, the staff member on that. He started today. I don't remember his last name. His name's Thor,
Mhm.
and he started today, so he'll be in touch.
Yeah.
You only need to go by your first name.
Right.
One thing that came out of the meeting with the DEI, the ARC group, is that, you know, we've got this, well, now we have this plan, you know, this beautiful document with all these recommendations, and it's quite, it's massive, and it's intimidating, and it can be overwhelming. Like, okay, we put a lot of time into making this. Now, how do we implement it? You know, that's really the tricky part. And I just commented to the mayor after the meeting that so many things that we were wrestling with as far as how to implement a plan that can be applied to the sustainability committee, including the sustainability plan, including, you know, how do we share? How do we all share in getting this accomplished? Suffice it to say, for a lot of reasons, I thought it was a great meeting. I'm looking forward to how things move forward.
Anyone else? This first sustainability meeting is a week from Thursday. I don't know if Thor was aware of that, but, or I mean, the next October meeting. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doug, I'm sure
Yeah.
Doug's been working with them. So.
Anyone have anything else on sustainability? Then we will move on to committee reports. Alder DePula.
Mark just mentioned that we have dates set for the public engagement portion of transit.
The 20th and 25th.
20th and 25th. So that's where we're at, yeah.
And how are we going to be notifying people about that?
We're getting the brochure that we talked about. That we get out there.
So it's going to be mailed soon?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's got to be, because
Yeah.
we're
That's
getting
only
same
2
close.
weeks
system.
away, so,
Use the one that Jake just used. That same company.
okay.
Sorry, 20th and 23rd or 20th and 25th?
20th, 25th.
Sorry, I just.
And then
6:30.
6. And is it going to be in the forum room?
It's going to be actually in here.
Oh, in here? Okay.
Both of them in here?
Yes.
Mark's going to send you an invite.
And then they're also going to be going to the senior
Senior
center
center.
for a separate meeting at some point.
Alder DePooler has the community media committee. Are they aware of this, just so that's in the newsletter? And
I just found out about the dates today.
Oh, great.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we'll be alerting everyone to the dates and putting out. And that's early enough that we can get it, or it's late enough we get it in the newsletter, maybe?
Yeah, no, we'll get it.
Barely anyway, but the more announcements, I'm sure we'll get something on WVMO soon, and should send something in the newspaper too. So. Anything else, Patrick?
Nope, that's it.
Alder Holmquist.
No report?
Alder Moore.
Vacation report.
Yeah.
Alder Wood.
Well, Parks Board met last week, and we talked about the ADA transition plan primarily, also the operating budget. But the public survey for San Damiano went out, or the flyer mailer for it went out over the weekend to the entire 53716 zip code. So, yeah, strongly encourage everybody to do that and encourage other people to do it. Trying to get 5,000 responses total, and I'm not sure if we're counting the house tours towards that or not. I think we've had over 1,000 people do house tours. So, yeah.
And we had put a link to it on the front page of the website today on the carousel, too, in case you have anyone who can't find it.
And the public meeting for that is what?
The 19th?
18th.
18th?
That's at the high school and the performing arts. Yeah.
And is that at 6:30, Jake, or 7?
7 o'clock.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Alder Thomas?
No report.
Alder Rademacher?
Not much to report since our last report out. Landmarks meeting was moved, or for this month of September did not happen. We just did not have quorum. And meeting with the community media committee this Thursday. So.
Which chief wants to go first?
I don't have any.
You don't?
What?
Oh,
I have 3 dates, is all I have to report.
Okay.
Saturday the 8th will be doing the golf ball drop for the Rural Educational Foundation at Healy Park, like we did last year. Great time.
and I can still sell you all a golf ball if you want one.
The next day, ladder 3 will be up at the square as part of the Dane County Fire Chiefs fire truck parade. We actually have 4 volunteers wanting to take that up, so we're going to let them do that. And then the following Saturday, we'll be having our open house down at the park as part of the Fall Festival. So instead of having it at the fire station, we're going to have it down at the park where we have all these people coming to run and do fun things, so we'll be down at the park with them. So come on down.
Thank you. Dan, did you have anything to report? No? Leah? Diane?
She's not.
Is she not there?
Yeah, she's there.
Oh.
Nothing to report.
Okay, Brad, did you have anything?
No.
Will?
No.
Okay, you all had your chance.
No, I do not.
City clerk.
In-person absentee voting starts October 25th and goes through November 4th. There's no drop box available, so people need to bring their ballots in person or mail it. And then anyone that's requested an absentee ballot, make sure you're filling out your certification envelope in full, all the highlighted sections. If you have any questions, call me at City Hall.
Mark?
Just one thing more for the council. We were originally going to have one of the committee of the holes for operating on the Monday the 31st. Got a lot of feedback on that, so we want to move it to Thursday of that week, which I believe is November 3rd, correct? So that Thursday. If you could let me know if that's a date that works for you or not. Yeah, November 3rd,
Starting at
5:30.
5:30.
And the other date is what's the other date we're doing operating? The 27th.
27th.
Yeah. We're having 2 committee of the holes for operating.
Yes.
October 27th
7th
and November 3rd.
Also at 5:30 on the 27th?
Yes.
Just want to make sure. Thank you.
Anything else?
No.
Mark? I just had a couple things. I was telling Dan, I did go down South Winnequa the other day, and those sidewalks look terrific. It really looks nice, and I think they're doing a great job, and yeah, very pleased.
And they're being used.
Pardon?
And they're being
And
used.
Dan has seen people walking on them also, and actually I said,
People that are being used.
yeah, so. Couple, maybe, 2 weeks out maybe, do you think, or?
Well, we know it today, and I believe we're expecting asphalt later at the end of this week. But the holdup is at UNI and TDS in that one block area. But pavement is key, and we're going to get there this week. So.
Yeah, because we're undergrounding the wires in that area. Yeah, and the other thing is Alder DePool and I attended the first meeting of the Dane County Regional Housing Strategy
Yes.
Group. I'm not sure what they call it. There's representatives from all the communities in Dane County and from several organizations like Project Home, things like that. And this is what Olivia Perry came and spoke to us about several months ago, but the focus is on developing and preserving affordable housing and workforce housing in Monona, which we know there's a big need for it. So the two of us are going to be going to most of the meetings. If one of us can't, then Doug Palm is going to serve as our alternate. And they had a lot of mayors there and county board chair, and I mean they've gotten a lot of people involved. So I thought it was
It was well run.
Yeah.
And drilling down priorities, the whole exercise in doing that, I thought was pretty great, really.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they've hired a firm to come in and facilitate, and they have a plan for, I think it's going to go through next August, once a month, so.
Yeah, that's the same firm that did the housing plan for the city of Sun Prairie. Yeah.
Right, so we will keep you posted on what we learn. And there's a lot of information, actually, which I shared with Doug, just about, because there's been some questions on plan about our housing, in terms of numbers for all of Dane County and that kind of thing, and I'll keep picking up an extra pack for him, too, so. That's everything I had. If there's nothing else, is there a motion? We have no appointments. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.